On behalf of the Chamber Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 13th Annual State of the Community Update. Today you have an opportunity to hear from area leaders in various fields about positive initiatives that have been developed and have brought positive impact to a number of issues that will help position grow our Twin Counties region for future prosperity and a greater quality of life. It is also an opportunity to learn firsthand about ways in which local individuals and entities partner on community and public projects. If there is a topic that interests you or you want to be part of the solution, please contact me, Lige Daltridge, or the Chamber. And it's my pleasure and at this time to introduce our new Chamber President, and she has an extensive Chamber background beginning in New Hampshire and most recently served as the President of the Laurinburg-Scotland County Area Chamber of Commerce in Laurinburg, North Carolina. And you've probably seen in the newspaper and also on our website her bio, so I'm not going to spend the time going through that, but I would like now to introduce Teresa Pinto.
Good morning. I'm not going to take up much of your time as we have quite a slate, and I'm more interested in hearing what they have to say than listening to myself. But I want to say thank you to Lige and Bill Boddy and the search committee, and especially the membership for giving me this opportunity. I look forward to it. I'm excited about the future that we have here in the Twin Counties, and especially with the Chamber. We are already refocusing and reorganizing. We've got wonderful staff, great, phenomenal volunteers, and I think there's a lot of positives that we can build on. So I look forward to building a stronger business community, and I look forward to being a better advocate for Rocky Mount and the Twin Counties. Anything I can do for you in the future, I maintain an open door policy, so I welcome your input and your comments. And I like what Lige said, especially solutions. Come to us with solutions and ideas, and we listen with open ears and open minds.
On behalf of the Rocky Mount City Council and the City of Rocky Mount, I want to welcome you all today to the Imperial Center. And I'd particularly like to welcome Teresa to Rocky Mount. Hopefully you'll be settling in and get to know everybody here that I'm sure you got introduced to today, and the test will be when you leave. You'll have to know everybody's name. So welcome to Rocky Mount. You know, I've been the mayor now for 4.5 years, and it's been an honor to serve as the mayor of Rocky Mount. And I want to thank you all for your support. Since I'm limited on time, instead of doing a State of the City update and talking about the sports complex and the success we've had there with over 90,000 visitors and an economic impact of over $9 million a year, or I could talk about the Imperial Center and the 50,000 people that come through each year, or I could talk about the number of road projects, I see Gus sitting in the back, that we have here in Rocky Mount. Or I could talk about the visioning process that's going on in our community right now, which many of you are taking part in. Or I could talk about my conversation with our new police chief on crime and his desire and initiatives to make Rocky Mount one of the safest cities in North Carolina. I could talk about the expansion that's going on right now at Hospira. They're looking to hire over 300 new employees. Or I could talk about the Cummins engine plant and the success that they have had here in Rocky Mount. This is their largest plant, and they do almost $2 billion worth of business out of this plant in Rocky Mount. I could talk about, but I'm going to let Larry do it, the expansion at Nash General Hospital, or our success at the Douglas Block and the progress that we've made in downtown streetscape. I could talk about all of these things today, but the biggest challenge that faces this community, even with all of our assets, is our attitude about Rocky Mount. In the study circle that I'm in right now, it's one of the first issues that we talked about, how the people that live in Rocky Mount feel about this community. And in many cases, we are our own worst enemies, because if we can't feel good about our own community, why would anyone else want to move here or move their business here or their family here? And I'll give you an example. I got a text message about a month ago, and I was playing golf one Sunday, and I looked down, and typically I don't like to use the phone on the golf course, but I checked it, and it said, it was from someone I knew, and it said, I just heard that Best Buy was closing, and I saw a report on crime in Rocky Mount. How depressing. What are we going to do? And the key word is we. First of all, I understand we have issues and challenges, but I want you to know that I meet with mayors from across the state, and every city in this state has issues and challenges. So I want to read two things today, and my hope is that when you leave here today, you will take away one thing, and that is that there are people, many of you here today and the folks on the stage, that are working on issues in this community, trying to make Rocky Mount a better place to live, work, and call home. The first one is called absolute responsibility, and I am a firm believer in absolute responsibility. Not only as an individual, but as a community, we all have to take responsibility. And I've had this article for many years, but I want to just read you a segment of it that was in Harper's Weekly. And it says, "It's a gloomy moment in the history of our country. Not in the lifetime of most men has there been so much grave and deep apprehension. The domestic economic situation is in chaos. The dollar is weak around the world. Prices are so high as to be utterly impossible. The political situation bubbles with uncertainty. Russia hangs as usual like a cloud, dark and silent upon the horizon. It is a solemn moment. Of our troubles, no man can see the end." Does that sound familiar? That article was written in 1857, 4 years before the Civil War. There were poor crops, bank closures, social problems, business failures, and government debts. The reason I read that, because Rocky Mount's been around since 1818. We've seen good times, we've seen bad times, and the last 3 or 4 years have been some tough times for Rocky Mount and our economy. But working together, we can make a difference in this community, and part of what we have to do is have a different attitude. And so when I went to church on Sunday, I was reading an article in our bulletin, and it was from a young man in this community named James Watley. Many of you know the family. And he's now in the 8th grade, and he wrote an article in the church bulletin about helping the Bassett Center and feeding the hungry in this community. But 2 years ago, or back in 2009, he wrote a letter to the editor. And I want to read this letter this morning because I think it tells a lot about where we need to be as a community. And it goes like this: "Jokes about the city not funny to all. For many months, I have watched and listened as many citizens of Rocky Mount have criticized our community and our community leaders. I've listened to adults and friends of mine joke about living in Rocky Mount. I've seen on Facebook people posting negative comments about the conditions here in our city. I even have seen people in certain Halloween costumes mocking the current Forbes listing. What I've not seen is many people doing much other than complaining. To rectify certain issues, I believe our town has an attitude problem. We need to change that. My mom has always told me that everyone has something good to bring to the table. You can look for the bad and be unhappy, or you can choose to look for the good and have many friends. Rocky Mount has plenty to be happy about. I know there may be a lot wrong, but if we change our defeatist attitude to a winner's attitude, many will be empowered to work harder for our town. I believe in Rocky Mount." If we all woke every morning and said those 5 words, wouldn't we want to do better at our community service? Wouldn't we be nicer to other people living in our community? Wouldn't the teacher want to try a little harder to reach that difficult student? And wouldn't that student try a little harder to do better in school? Wouldn't our community leaders strive harder for something they believe in? Wouldn't our city employees be prouder of the jobs that they do? Wouldn't we all feel like we were part of this community and all in this together as a team? I believe in Rocky Mount. I live here, and I wish I could live here for a lot longer. At that time, his family was looking at leaving Rocky Mount. Everyone says that this has been a year of change. Great. Let's change our attitudes for the better and for the betterment of Rocky Mount. I believe in Rocky Mount, and I know that soon everyone else will too. He was a 6th grader. Somehow he gets it, but at times the rest of us don't. I would urge all of you today, when you leave, to remember this article and remember those 5 words, I believe in Rocky Mount. Thank you for being here today.
Good morning. As I thought about what I would talk about this morning, thought about talking about city finances and said, that wouldn't be good. Thought about talking about the visioning and strategic planning process as the mayor talked about, and that is an important process to be a part of. But again, I don't want to talk about that. But instead, I thought it would be more interesting to share with you information discussed at the recent City Council retreat. As I reflect back on the visioning and strategic planning process, I also think about the words of Peter Drucker, and Morris Wilder says that the Chamber of Commerce should charge me for using this quote. But Peter Drucker says the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that is what we're trying to do with the visioning and strategic planning process. However, as we are developing a vision and strategic plan for our community, the City of Rocky Mount or any governmental entity must have a vision for their community. Our City Council and the Mayor do have a vision for our community. So this morning I want to share with you some of that vision. I don't have enough time. It took me about an hour to go through this with the Mayor and the City Council and with my staff the other day. But I just want to pick out some snippets to share with you. As we talked about the vision for our community, there are three important words that stand out. Our vision must be transformational game changers. Whatever we do should be based upon transforming our city to the city that we want it to be and changing the game. As we talk about the vision, the goals are to be bold and transformational for our community and are aimed at increasing the tax base, creating a new economy, incenting entrepreneurs, and changing the trajectory, dynamics, and conversations in our community. Our City Council has embraced a definition called community economic development. When we speak of community development, oftentimes there are negative connotations with community development because what a lot of people will think is that community development is based upon doing things for the poor and less fortunate. But community development is much more than that. If you remember the conversation from Mac Holliday in November, he said that community development is economic development. Our City Council has embraced the definition of community economic development, and it appears on your screen. And it simply says to actively elicit community involvement when working with government, nonprofit, and private sectors to build strong communities, industries, and markets. It is a multifaceted, comprehensive approach to community change. I would invite you as participants and citizens in our community to embrace the idea of community economic development. The businesses that you run, you are involved in community economic development. Even at a community college, you are involved in community economic development. In education, you are involved in community economic development. All of us are involved in community economic development. Now, if I was a preacher, I would say to you, can you all repeat community economic development? Can I hear that? Community economic development. We are all involved in community economic development. When we talk about community economic development, there's several components. I talked about the different areas that you are involved in, but when we think about a vision, we have to think about housing. It is a part of community economic development. When we look around our city, we have housing that needs to be improved. That means there are opportunities for government, nonprofit, and the private sector. As we look to enhance the quality of life in our city, we have to engage all of those sectors that I spoke about. We no longer have an E.C. Powell that built lots of housing for people in this community, but we need a new E.C. Powell to stand up. We no longer have a Chauncey Stokes that was involved in creating housing for people, but we need new Chauncey Stokes to step forward. Again, a part of community economic development. Our City Council has authorized us to bring in a consultant to help us look at how we can bring more funds into our community, but leverage private dollars to improve housing in our community. when we talk about community economic development, we also talk about redevelopment in our community, reusing properties. When we talk about being green, we don't always talk about knocking things down and building new. When we look at the buildings and the historic fabric that we have in our community, we want to build on that historic fabric. The other thing that we talk about is rebuilding the city from the inside. When I talked to our council, the very first budget I presented to them, one of the challenges that I have as city manager is to look at increasing our tax base. That tax base is what provides us revenue to do the different things that we need in our community. Now, we may not be able to grow outward, but when we look at our community, we can take our center city, which is important for the life of any community, to have a strong center city. If you look at Rocky Mount, downtown Rocky Mount, right now the primary focus area is worth $30 million. Our goal should be to increase the value at least 5 times. So that would be $150 million. That increases the taxes that will be available to provide important services in our community. When I make that statement, I just want to take you to the slide. You see, that's the Douglas block before. Pretty picture, right? This is the after picture. If you look at this building, the city purchased this building for $150,000. So you can calculate the taxes that we received on that. $150,000, Douglas building redone is worth $750,000. That's putting your money at work. When you look at the new Douglas building, every commercial space is occupied. So there are 5 businesses in this space. All the apartments, 5 apartments are occupied. If you go down to the Burnett building, the commercial space, the office space is occupied. All 3 apartments in that building are occupied. That's community economic development. That's increasing our tax base. That's creating a new economy for our community. When you look at our downtown, we have to create a sense of place. We have to make it a place that people want to go to. Our city council embarked upon a streetscape project. And if you haven't ridden downtown, you don't know what you've been missing. You can already begin to see it come to pass. Already right after we started streetscape work last year, we saw 6 buildings that were under contract and are now being renovated. But we also have an opportunity to work with our community college, build programs there. That, again, is community economic development. So we want to increase the presence of our community college. They have an allied health program, and the hope is to build an allied health building. So we're working with our community college in that sense, but we also are hoping that we can look at some student housing in our downtown area. But as I said, it would take partnerships from all levels of city government, nonprofits, and the private sector to reuse, rehabilitate, and revitalize our city and the region. Next slide, please. At the City Council retreat, we talked about what is the game changer for downtown. And the Rocky Mount City Council authorized me to proceed with preparing an RFP for a market feasibility study for the Rocky Mount Event Center. When you look back in the history of our city, the city has talked about since the 40s, the 70s, the 90s, and now 2012, about creating a civic center in our city. When I read the task force report that was done in 1974, these words still ring loud in my ear. The report said, if Rocky Mount is to maintain its position of leadership in eastern North Carolina, a civic center was a must. When we look at our community today, this event center would be a game changer for our downtown. It would create a destination location in downtown Rocky Mount. It would incent private investment in the downtown area. And whenever I talk with people about putting a restaurant in our downtown area, they look at me like I have 3 heads. However, if you could generate the traffic to the downtown, then maybe people will understand why it might not be a bad idea to have a microbrewery, why it might not be a bad idea to have a restaurant in the downtown, why it would bring all the properties that would be located into play and see redevelopment in our downtown area. The Rocky Mountain Event Center would be a game changer for our downtown. And I do want to give credit to Tim Oakley and Ann Collier for providing this picture. Now, I do want you to understand, this has not been designed. It has not been designed. It's just a nice picture. But a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so if you could just visualize downtown Rocky Mount with an event center, with traffic, with basketball, with indoor soccer, a year ago, when we received the USA Sports South Spring Tournament, right after we received the announcement that we were going to receive that tournament in Rocky Mountain in the spring of 2013, we had a call to our superintendents of Parks and Recreation. And the question was, does Rocky Mount have a location where you can seat 3,000 to 5,000 people for a basketball? Because if you do, we would consider bringing our basketball tournament to downtown Rocky Mount. Our answer was obviously no. This building would provide us a venue that we could play basketball in downtown Rocky Mount, very much like the sports complex. The economic impact the mayor's already talked about from the sports complex, the event center could have the same impact in our downtown Rocky Mount. I just simply want to say to you, the mayor, the city council, and the staff are all good stewards of your resources. However, we also recognize the need for a new and enhanced economy, new investment, and increased tax base. We will do our due diligence, but I want to take a page out of the baseball playbook, and please just remember these words from Frederick Wilcox. You can't steal second base if you keep your foot on first. Thank you, and have a great day.
Good morning, everybody. One of the themes of our program is about partnerships that we tend to forge between local governments and the private sector. And I've got several examples of these partnerships. There's no way that we can function as an island amongst ourselves. And it takes partners to make things happen. And there's a lot of good things that are going on in Edgecombe County, and I'll begin to start telling you about some of them. One of the first things, and some of you have heard me say this before, but some of the first things that we are extremely proud of in Edgecombe County is the ability to provide water to our customers, our citizens in the county. Every public school in Edgecombe County is served by a public water supply. We have a distribution system that runs, it's probably about a $40 or $45 million system, and we've managed to get that system put in place with about 70% grants, and the other 30% is being financed by user funds. We have a partnership with the city of Rocky Mount and the town of Tarboro that we buy water from them and distribute it throughout the county. That has managed to help people not only with their health, their oral health, with having fluoride in the water, but it also has helped to reduce people's fire insurance ratings. In the past, before we had this water system, volunteer fire departments had to go to a ditch or a pond or take 1,000 gallons of water with them on a truck to try to fight a fire, and now they can pull up to a fire hydrant and actually be able to provide the fire protection, which in turn reduces their fire insurance. We're fortunate, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the city of Rocky Mount enters this water in a national competition on a regular basis, and they are always winning awards of having the best tasting drinking water around. So if you're a Rocky Mount water customer, you've seen those bottles, I'm quite sure. But we're glad that that's going to help to contribute to the overall health and well-being of the citizens in the county. As far as economic development is concerned, we're always constantly fighting that battle, marketing Edgecombe County for economic development. We were recently, and John, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, but we were recently picked as what they call a CSX select site out at Kingsborough. CSX Railroad has a program where they will assist in the marketing of property that they have a train track coming by, and they're going to assist us with marketing that site with some of their existing customers. We have people coming in all the time, kicking the wheels, taking a look at our site, and we've made, I guess we've made the final cutoff list, but we haven't hit a home run yet. But we keep stepping up to the plate, and eventually we are going to hit a home run. Now, hope I didn't make the folks at QVC mad saying we didn't hit a home run, because we knocked it out of the park with QVC. QVC has announced last year they got a 1 million square foot warehouse out at Kingsborough now, and they have plans to expand it to another 1 million square feet. So I think when that's all said and done, I guess I'm using a lot of sports analogies, but you can put 14 or 15 football fields under one roof by the time they do this other 1 million square foot warehouse space out at Kingsborough. And we are extremely optimistic that as the economy turns around, that's going to happen. Cummins Diesel partnered with a company that's located out at Kingsborough, a company called FCN, that manufactures metal shipping crates for Cummins engines that they're shipping off overseas, so that the salt air and everything doesn't ruin the engines on the way over. So that was a great partnership. I think they created about 25 or 30 jobs with that particular endeavor. Superior Cable is in the process now of doing a plant expansion to create about another 135 jobs. They should be having a ribbon cutting in the next couple of weeks to announce that. Charles, we in Edgecombe County certainly do appreciate all of the economic development that's taking place on the Edgecombe County side of the tracks, helping to increase our tax base. The Douglas Block renovations is certainly a shot in the arm, as well as the recent announcements at the Crossing of 64 project. We have buildings coming out of the ground, and those things are coming to fruition, and they're working. In addition to that, the county was fortunate enough to get a pretty good deal. We hated that the jobs were lost or consolidated, but Embark or Carolina Telephone, depends on how far back you go, vacated a building in downtown Tarboro, sold that property to the county at a pretty good rate. And we're finishing up renovating that project to relocate our health department and social services department to downtown Tarboro, which in turn generated, there's a new restaurant that opened up yesterday, as a matter of fact. A bank has come downtown. There's a lot of different people coming in to downtown, looking at the downtown area, because we're going to be bringing in around 250 employees into the downtown area. In addition to doing that project, we are renovating the courthouse, putting some restrooms on the inside of the courthouse, and providing additional space for the district attorney's office, as well as the clerk of court's office.
It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning and to have this opportunity to bring you up to date on what we consider to be some good, positive developments in Nash County. And this morning, I thought I would concentrate really on some recent capital developments in the county. I'm going to begin with the status of 3 projects that were included in our 2010 limited obligation and USDA bonds. That's the United States Department of Agriculture bonds. we were fortunate to kind of hit the market perfectly as far as interest rate goes on borrowed money. And we also hit the market at the same time. The construction costs were at historic lows. So we feel like we made some real inroads on some much needed capital projects in the county, and we're able to get them at low cost that were pretty good deals for taxpayers. The first is the new Rocky Mount High School on Bethlehem Road. I hope you all had an opportunity to ride by it. It's set to welcome students this fall. It has a capacity of 1,400 students, and upon completion will be the largest of the county's high schools. It's a state-of-the-art school in terms of its academic and athletic facilities, and it's on the cutting edge in its use of energy-efficient technology. One of the more exciting features of the school is its 375-seat black box theater that can be used for plays, musical performance, and other special events. We expect the high school to be the first in the state to achieve the coveted LEED gold status, which will identify the school as a leader in environmental design and energy efficiency. I've had the opportunity, along with several others, to tour the new school, and it's truly an outstanding facility, which I think the community can take a great deal of pride. The second project under the bond program, this one funded by USDA, was the Middlesex Elementary School upgrade and renovation. That facility actually came online this academic year with new classrooms, offices, kitchen, and cafeteria that replace aged facilities, some of which date back really to the 20s. The existing gym was renovated. We were able to, or the school system was able to preserve some of the newer parts of the campus, and the existing gym was renovated and other space was converted for art and music education. The third project was a new emergency medical services station that's now open on the grounds of Nash General Hospital. And we thank the hospital for the donation of the property, and we think we've developed a facility that will benefit not only the county but the hospital as well by having this facility on their grounds. The station houses an emergency medical crew and an ambulance, and is the busiest station in the county, responding to over 300 calls per month. It also serves as the headquarters for our non-emergency transport service. The new facility allowed us to consolidate our previously fragmented transport operations in one facility that's located close to the nursing homes and convalescent facilities that we serve with this particular service. This concentration has allowed us to bring in trucks from all over the county in one facility, and again, being close to the convalescent centers, it enabled us to provide the service in a much more timely way and a much more fuel-efficient way in saving us some money in the process. We obtained grant funding to establish a backup 911 center in this building that is available for use should our primary center in Nashville go down for any particular reason. We have 7 telecommunicator stations in the building that can be up and running within 15 minutes of the main center going down in Nashville. Just a couple other projects that we had. We have a new sports facility that was funded under the same bond program that's already open at Southern Nash High School, which provides new athletic facilities, dressing rooms, and practice space for Southern Nash, which is a beautiful facility. And now that school has a facility that's comparable to what our other high schools in the county have. And then the last project that we had under that particular bond was a new county maintenance building that's now in operation. It's adjacent to the school property, maintenance facility right as you enter the town of Nashville. On the economic development front, we continue to develop the Middlesex Corporate Park located at the intersection of US 264 bypass and Highway 231. The project sits on about 300 acres and is within easy traveling distances to RDU and the Triangle Universities and the other amenities of the Triangle. With the help, Gus, of the North Carolina Department of Transportation, we've completed a roadway through the park and have established an attractive entranceway on 231. We're working with the Gateway Partnership to develop a marketing strategy for the park and to update its certification with the North Carolina Department of Commerce. We're pleased to welcome the first enterprise on the periphery of the park, that being Nash General Hospital, which recently opened a doctor-staff clinic at the entrance to the park. The building also includes a meeting facility that has already been used by several community groups I know real estate agents always talk about curb appeal, and we feel like this facility is just a great welcoming facility for our park, and will aid in the marketing and the ultimate success of the park. Plans are being completed for the second public park in the rural area of Nash County, the first one being Red Oak. That particular park, by the way, has been a phenomenal success. We've also benefited from the overflow of the Rocky Mount Athletic Facility. I hope we provided some backup facilities for them, and that has helped us as well. But the second park will be located between Middlesex and Bailey. The park is a cooperative effort between the towns of Bailey and Middlesex in the state of North Carolina. The county will operate the park upon its completion, as we do with the Red Oak Park. Phase 1, scheduled to be completed this year, will include soccer fields, walking trail, playgrounds, sand, volleyball courts, and concessions. And Phase 2, which is indeterminate at this point as to when it's going to take place, is dependent upon funding, but we hope sooner rather than later. Phase 2 will include softball and baseball fields. Nash County just gave the Board of Commissioners authority to issue up to $9.5 million in general obligation bonds for the construction of a new continuing education and public service building on the campus of Nash Community College. The facility's primary purpose will be to train law enforcement officers, emergency medical personnel, and firefighters. No construction date has been set for the facility. The college is in search of the additional funds that will be required to complete the structure. Also related to the community college, the Board of Commissioners has committed up to $1 million for the construction of a new access road to the college from Sunset Avenue. This road will serve the new building, but will also provide a second entrance to the campus that will relieve the heavy traffic on Old Carriage Road during peak travel periods. If any of y'all travel through that intersection of Old Carriage in Sunset in the morning and the evenings, you're aware of the heavy traffic there, and we're encouraged that Gus, we appreciate your help on the ultimate payment for this new road. But we hope and are encouraged that this new road will significantly improve congestion and improve traffic flow throughout the college campus. I don't have a slide on it, but Lorenzo mentioned the water system in Edgecombe County. We're honestly a little bit behind Edgecombe in that endeavor in supplying water throughout the county, but we're making significant progress. This past year saw us pass the milestone of over 2,000 public water customers. We are pushing the system westward. We've completed 3 phases of the project, and we hope to complete the final phase 4 within the next year or two and be up to upward of 3,000 customers. Like Edgecombe, in a cooperative venture, we purchase our bulk water from the city of Rocky Mount. We too enjoy its taste. It is excellent water. I would commend it to you either as a beverage just to drink alone or to mix with other things. But we were fortunate. Not only is it a great quality of life improver for those people out in the rural areas of the county who have had problems with the quality of water in their wells or with lowering levels of well water. We were successful in kind of oversizing the spine of our system, going down the major corridors, and it should prove to be a good assist on the economic development in the more rural parts of Nash County. So we are excited about that project as well as the many other things that we have going on in Nash County, and I thank you for listening this morning.
It is my pleasure to talk very briefly about a few things going on with the Nash healthcare system. And I will, although we have a lot I could talk about, and I appreciate the plugs we've gotten already, particularly our new clinic in Middlesex, which we could not have done without Bob Murphy's help and without the county council. But I want to talk about the construction that's going on right now, which will end up being a new heart center and a new emergency room. As well as our neonatology special care unit, which has just opened up, and our intent to get into the physician training business. Next slide, please, ma'am. This is what the giant mud hole that sits in front of the Nash healthcare system right now will end up being, we hope and pray, probably in January of 2014. It focuses on two service lines. One is totally replacing the existing emergency room. Right now we have 36 treatment areas available in our emergency room. When we finish this project, we will have 54 treatment rooms. We are grossly overcrowded in our emergency room. When that facility was opened up in the early 90s, it was built to handle a capacity of 45,000 patients a year. Last year we saw over 66,000 patients in our emergency room. This facility is sized to treat over 80,000 patients a year, and sadly enough, our emergency room volume goes up every year. This year we'll see probably 1,000 more than we did last year, and that trend seems to be continuing for a number of reasons. Just to give you a little bit of perspective of our responsibility or our scope in the emergency room, there are 125 hospital emergency rooms in the state of North Carolina. Ours is the 17th largest. The 16th largest in the state is the Duke University Medical Center, and the 18th largest right after ours is the UNC Healthcare System emergency room. The new Nash Heart Center is going to be on the top 2 stories of the building that we are building, and it combines a number of cardiovascular services that are spread all over the campus right now into one single facility strategically located near the emergency room. Bobby, if you go to the next slide. These are the primary features of our new heart center. First and foremost, it is a heart center that developed in a 3-way partnership. The East Carolina Heart Institute in Greenville, the Boyce Willis Clinic and its cardiology physicians and their support staff, and the Nash Healthcare System. We will feature an 8-bed cardiac intensive care unit. Our cardiac catheterization labs will be moved into this new center. Last year, as some of you know, we started doing cardiac intervention procedures, more commonly known as stents. And so our PCI lab, as we call it, will move into the new heart center as well. All of our nuclear cardiology testing will move there, stress testing, echocardiography, and many other facilities. But the most rapidly growing part of our business at the Nash Healthcare System is treating cardiovascular disease. So we're very proud and happy that we're going to have a new facility to do that in. And if you have any real questions about this, I'm sure glad Dr. Chestnut is going to follow me because she really knows what's going on. Next is we are very proud of the expansion of our neonatology services, or the services we provide to newborn infants. The state of North Carolina ranks all nursery beds in level 1 through level 4. Level 1 is for normal newborn infants that are full term. Level 4 are those infants that are very premature, very sick, and spend months in the hospital, possibly when they are first born. Historically, the Nash Healthcare System has only offered level 1 and level 2 beds. Last month, when we opened our neonatology special care unit, we now have 9 level 3 beds, which allows us to take care of much more premature, more sick infants. This has sprung out of a partnership with the Duke University Medical Center, where the neonatology physicians and the neonatology nurse practitioners are provided through Duke. The rest of the staff, the rest of the facilities are obviously in the Nash Healthcare System. We estimate that approximately 250 to 300 ladies that have had to leave the area right now because of their obstetrical risk will be able to receive care at home and Nash General Hospital as a result of opening this neonatology unit. Last and certainly not least is the Nash Healthcare System's endeavor to get into the physician training business. As some of you know, there is a very critical shortage of the supply of physicians in our country today. rural areas are hit much harder than urban areas relative to access to physicians. And we're attacking this on two fronts. One is 2 years ago, the Brody School of Medicine in Greenville did a survey, did an analysis to select a satellite campus to be able to train third and fourth year medical school students on. We were selected for that. That's the good news. The bad news is it is dependent on state legislature funding, so it may not happen in our lifetimes. But now we are very optimistic that the state will move forward with the Brody School of Medicine request to be able to develop satellite physician training, and that would mean that probably 10 to 15 third-year students and 10 to 15 fourth-year medical school students would get most of their training here in Rocky Mount as opposed to the main campus in Greenville. The other endeavor that we're working on is residency training for physicians that have completed medical school and have decided what specialty they want to go into, and so they are trained in that. Again, we're working with the Brody School of Medicine, where we expect that we will be a part of their rotational service. In other words, a young man or woman that is getting their training in orthopedics might spend 6 months out of their 3-year tenure or 9 months out of their 3-year tenure in residency training at our community hospital in Rocky Mount as opposed to the medical center in Greenville. So both of those are works in progress, and the method in our madness is that statistically about 75% of all physicians end up practicing in a community where they receive all or part of their medical education. So we hope if we can get the docs here, show them the community, show them our wonderful medical staff, show them our hospital facilities, that we can attract them to come to the hospital when they finish their training program. Thank you very much.
I'm delighted to be here this morning to share with you about health care in the Twin County area. And I certainly appreciate Mr. Tuning showing the wonderful facilities that are developing at the Nash General Hospital campus. We as physicians appreciate those, and I know that you as patients do. Boyce Willis Clinic and health care is in a time of transition. I have confidence that this transition time will lead to a better quality of care. You can just turn on the TV at any point in time and see that there are questions about health care. Health care reform is on every channel, and it's here in the Twin Counties as well. My first slide here highlights the physical print of Boyce Willis Clinic. And I'd like to point out that we do have 2 other offices in Nashville and Spring Hope. And you can see we have a close physical partnership with Nash General Hospital, as 3 of our locations are directly on the campus. We have Boyce Willis Primary Care, Pediatrics, and the new Medical Office Park building that's a 2-story building on the Nash campus. The 2nd floor has our surgeons. So we are very proud of our physical relationship with Nash General Hospital and look forward, as Mr. Tuning referenced, to the new cardiac center coming to Nash General as well. Our flagship building is in the center, is the Rocky Mount Medical Park building, where the majority of our internists are, as well as our specialists. And then we have another venture that Mr. Tuning didn't mention, which is our Nash Open MRI, and that was a joint venture with Boyce Willis as well as Nash to create an open MRI center so that patients didn't have to travel to Wilson, Greenville, or Raleigh to get their open MRIs. So we are very proud of our continued partnership and look forward to continued joint ventures with Nash General Hospital. The next slides are going to really focus on the people at Boyce Willis and what we have done to improve quality of care and also to improve our physicians. We have a very difficult time here with recruitment. We are still recruiting new physicians. We have, on the previous slide, we do have 3 new physicians that have started within the last year. We've expanded our hematology oncology with Dr. Wong, our family practice with Dr. Hicks, our internal medicine with Dr. Sampat, and then we also have a new family practice physician who is coming in the fall, Dr. Aranti, who's not pictured on that slide. So even though recruitment is difficult, we still are adding high-quality physicians to the community. We've also taken some physicians and use them as part-time physicians. We hadn't traditionally embraced that at Boyce Willis, but are looking to getting part-time physicians. Dr. Leslie Browder is seeing patients in our office, and then we also have Dr. Bill Leland, who is seeing GI patients and also doing endoscopies and colonoscopies in our endoscopy center. From another perspective, to meet the needs of the community, we have expanded our physician extender program. On the previous slide, you can see that we have physician extenders, including physician assistants and nurse practitioners, and we've added these to help meet the access needs. From a patient perspective, everybody always has questions. I want to see a doctor. I don't want to see a nurse practitioner or physician assistant. But we are creating this program as a quality program. We've created a department of nurse practitioners and physician's assistants and are really focusing on educating this department and then collaborative practice. At Boyce Willis and within Nash and Edgecombe counties, we want people to feel confident in their medical care. We have excellent physicians and extenders here and want to work together to provide coordinated care through all levels of care with our physician assistants and physicians. And the next slide, this has been the rockiest part of this transformation, which is electronic medical record. I'm sure with Mr. Tuning didn't talk about the Cerner transformation at the hospital. We had our EMR, which was called eClinicalWorks, and lots of you, I'm sure, had long lines, both at Nash General as well as at Boyce Willis offices, where we were transforming into electronic medical record. We are all now up and live on the system and hope that it will continue to improve quality of care. We are working on a health information exchange all across North Carolina so that all of our systems will be able to communicate. We could easily communicate with our local hospital as well as other hospitals. That certainly is a work that's in progress that is going to develop over the next few years. But right now we are focusing on our whole team. We've created a information technology team within Boyce Willis, and it's really taught us that we've got to reprogram people's jobs. We have nurses who are now crucial to this team. We have previous radiation technology people who are part of this team so that we can create a good information technology team. Now we not only have the nurse and the doctor, but we've also got to have the computer doctor who's right there to help us when our computer records go down. So that's been the rockiest area, but it certainly has been the most gratifying area that we have. On the last slide, talk some about patient care and quality, and I want to reiterate some of Mr. Tuning's points with education. We not only educate patients on a daily basis, but we have students that work within Boyce Willis that we educate, students from UNC Chapel Hill, Brody School of Medicine, Duke University, and now the newly appointed Campbell Physician's Assistant Program. A lot of our physicians and physician extenders serve as faculty, and so we are ready to embrace the idea of training residents and even more Brody School of Medicine students. We also have a close partnership with a community college, particularly the Allied Health Program, where we have interns who come through Boyce Willis and are trained and then later become employees of Boyce Willis Clinic. So there's a tight partnership between us and education. So as you can see, despite the national and local healthcare challenges, we are not just reacting to these challenges, but embracing them and hopefully improving the quality of care within Nash and Edgecombe counties.
Good morning. As an attorney who bills by the hour, my job is to be brief and get us back on schedule. When Jeffrey Batts called me and asked me to be on the executive committee of your Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce in charge of public policy, I was more than happy to agree, partly because anywhere Elijah Daltridge is willing to lead, I am willing to follow. But also because as a lawyer, I knew I was supposed to know something about public policy. The only problem was I knew nothing about public policy. So I did what everybody else would do, and I got on the internet and looked up public policy. And I think I got a Wikipedia definition, but it still didn't help me understand what I would be dealing with on a practical aspect. And about that time, literally rolling down the pike came the concept of tolling I-95 and the public response to tolling I-95. And that was a baptism by fire for what public policy is. Your Chamber of Commerce, however, has done a good job of keeping its eye on the ball, which is to say our mission is to be an advocate for business in Rocky Mount, and that's what we're going to do. Our 2012 program of work for the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce includes some pieces for public policy that I want to go over with you briefly. First of all, strengthen the relationship with the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. You should know that our North Carolina Chamber of Commerce has identified numerous areas where the General Assembly is willing to partner with the business community on education, reform policy, and some other areas. Within the education reform, they're looking at an emphasis on vocational curriculum and also the concept of where business leaders can temporarily teach in high schools across North Carolina in their respective fields of expertise without having to go through the hurdles of a teacher certificate. I bring that up partly because you're getting ready to hear from Ken Anderson and our education initiative within the Rocky Mount Chamber of Commerce, and I suspect at the end of the day you will conclude with me that the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce would be well served if they came down here to Rocky Mount and looked at what we were doing in that regard. The second thing is to participate in and engage with the North Carolina Eastern Region economic development and legislative efforts. There is a North Carolina Eastern Region's Chambers of Commerce. Your chamber has been to Kinston, visited with our legislative delegation, met with chambers of commerce similarly situated to ours in the Eastern Region of North Carolina, and we will continue to do that. Next is to play an active advocacy role with local, state, and national elected and appointed officials. You should know that your Chamber of Commerce has recently been to Raleigh. We have met with Joe Hackney. We've met with Phil Berger. We've met with Skip Stam. We've met with Governor Perdue, Commerce Commissioner Crisco, and in those efforts we have advocated for business in Rocky Mount, and we will continue to do that. Our next point is to promote and support efforts to secure a 2012 gubernatorial debate in Rocky Mount. Let me repeat that. We're planning to have a statewide televised debate between Pat McCrory and Walter Dalton in Rocky Mount. Feelers have been put out to the Dalton camp. Feelers have been put out to the McCrory camp. With the cooperation of Dr. Jim Gray at Wesleyan College, we plan to have this debate at the Dunn Center. Dr. Gray has reached out to WRAL. So if it doesn't happen, don't shoot me. But if it does happen, know that it was a large coup, a great thing, and we'll all need some community support when that time comes around. We would anticipate that this would happen sometime in the fall, shortly before the elections. Finally, our last point is to advocate public policy positions when appropriate. And I'm going to underline when appropriate because that brings me back to tolling of I-95. Your Chamber of Commerce, with the leadership of Lige Daughtridge and the Executive Committee, determined that we would be a resource of information for our members relative to tolling I-95. If any of you have never been to the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce website, I encourage you to go there. And in particular, if you want to learn about the I-95 tolling issue, we have information available to you so that we can educate and enlighten anyone who is interested. Needless to say, the concept of tolling I-95 is a fluid issue that will continue to evolve, and it is the determination of your chamber that we will continue to be a resource for information in that regard, and then each person can take an educated position on where they think they are best served with that issue. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm John Gassman, President and CEO of Carolinas Gateway Partnership, and I want to second the welcome to Teresa Pinto and look forward very much to working on some great projects in the future. and great success. Also want to thank everybody that's preceded me and those going after for being part of the economic development team that you have. And I think in this world, we hate to think about winners and losers in the community's economic development department, but it is a fact that in a lot of things we do, just like batting in the major league, if you get to 300, man, you're really doing good. So that means you're unsuccessful 7 out of 10 times. And we live in a little different world than existed in the past, where we're in a global economy. It's worldwide. Everybody is competing for the same things we want. Other communities want the jobs we now have, and our communities and our companies are getting bombarded every day by other communities kind of like us saying, gee, move here. And that's kind of changed in the past. You need to look at economic development, as Jay Garner presented in a recent seminar that we had about are we on the same page. And we're one piece of the overall rubric that I think Charles referred to as community economic development. And so we feed into that. And I think we do some important things, but we're not the total picture of what we need to worry about as a community. But Jay put things into perspective when he said, you know, in economic development, you kind of have the hunters, which is the recruitment piece, the gardeners, which are the entrepreneurial piece, and the nurturers, and supporting existing business. And I think we do in the Carolinas Gateway Partnership, I think people are thinking of us as the hunters, the recruiters. We certainly tried very hard to nurture and support existing business, which is really where you succeed in this world, is trying to keep your businesses here and get them to grow. And then the other piece, gardening, which is so many different people involved in that piece of it. Entrepreneurs, we have a great organization called NEAR, and I want to call out a group of people that are going to be starting up something called Springboard, which is a way to maybe garner some additional energy into the whole area of entrepreneurship. And I want to call out here before we go on to the next slide, Bobby, our chairman, Frank Harrison. Mr. Harrison, I think, is here, recently elected to another term, and thank all the board members, which is a lot of you people, a lot of the folks that are here today, and many of the folks on the stage to enable us to do what we do. And what we've done is pretty good. Each year we try to target 600 new partnership jobs and $60 million in new private investment. And through some math that was done, if we do that, we're going to see this economy grow by a minimum of 1%. Now, since 2008, that's been a pretty tough challenge, but we're succeeding in getting the new partnership jobs, the basic industry jobs coming in. Our target groups are in the area of food processing, distribution, technology-led manufacturing, life sciences, and administrative and back-office functions. We like to gear our financial assistance to higher-paying jobs, and I want to take a moment to say how the partnership really works. We are funded through our operating expenses by the 5 jurisdictions, Nash County, Edgecombe County, City of Rocky Mount, Town of Tarboro, and Town of Nashville. And then our private sector members, which is many of you in this audience, we're able to put that money into a pot to basically try to induce companies to expand and locate into our area. So a whole lot of people are involved in that. But we want to try to gear our assistance more to the higher paying jobs. And in fact, because of the success that we've had, we're winners. I mean, this community is a group of winners. And in 2010, well, actually last year in 2011, Southern Business Development Magazine ranked the Rocky Mount area economy as the hottest small market in the South. And now those are because of a lot of the announcements that are yet to transpire, but those things are coming. Overall, the partnership has assisted in 70 projects, resulting in just over 8,300 job commitments, $743 million in new direct investment. And thanks to our private sector members, who I mentioned before, we've committed almost $3 million in private sector funds to get these projects. For our community and a community our size, I just think that is an outstanding, outstanding record of the way everybody pitches in and sees how a rising tide is going to make all the boats float higher. Some of the companies we've assisted, I'm not going to go through them all, and there's many, many more, but they're kind of household names around here. And the nicest part about what we do is that we can assist getting them in here, and then we can assist them to expand. It's just a wonderful thing to do. I'd like to talk for a second about how we are viewed. And I thought for a moment about aspirations and reality. And I think it's always good to dream about where we want to be and then maybe have some reality checks too. I mentioned before, we're a global economy, but here in our area, we have 60, and there's a neat new website. It's put out by UNC and the SAS Institute. It's called a heat map of the state. And they go through and talk about the different characteristics of each of the counties. But in our 2 counties, there are 66 foreign-owned company sites according to that map. And I think that you step back for a second and think about the words global economy. Where are we? 66 foreign-owned company sites in these 2 county areas. And according to that very study, our region, these 2 counties, Nash and Edgecombe counties, we import $180 million from other places in the world, but we export $370 million in goods and services annually. Now, I don't need to tell you, and doing the math, if every 2 counties in the country did this, we'd be in a lot better shape than maybe we are. But that's an unbelievable, outstanding fact that, yeah, we're in the global economy. We're selling stuff to those places twice as much as we're bringing in. And why is that? Well, it's because of our strong industrial base. Ken's here to talk about that. He certainly represents one of those things. He's bringing in parts, et cetera, from all over the world and sending those things out to other places too. We are globally connected here. Airports, RDU, our own RWI, seaports. We're incredibly close to great seaports on the East Coast, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. And then rail and interstates to get there. We're very, very fortunate to have these assets. We have a world-class workforce, a world-class education. We're going to hear more about that later. And once again, just last year, we were ranked one of the top, we were the top small market in the South. Nobody was better than us. And I want to say, that wasn't the first time. We did that about 6 years ago, too. Just to point out some of the companies that are representing where we are, and oh boy, are we going to get an error report. I like that, Bobby. Bobby's very nervous about this. And I wanted to talk for a second about some important short-term trends and programs, improving our readiness while we're getting ready for the next slide. Oh, good. First of all, I think this region-wide unifying vision, when Jay Carter came up and talked about it, that was one of the key things for economic development success, having a region-wide unifying vision. It's very important in economic development when site selectors come into the region. They look for that. I want to say right now, we have more client activity, I would say, than in the past 5 years. And that's very, very positive news for us because, once again, going with our batting average, if we're good, maybe 2 out of 10, if you get 50 shots at the plate, you're a lot better off than if you have 20. So we've got a lot of good opportunities. We have expanding existing industry, which has been mentioned previously. New educational initiatives. We're expanding our site product. I wanted to call out particularly what Bob was mentioning on the Middlesex Corporate Park is a great opportunity, CSX Select site. And I want to back up for a second, and the winners and the successful folks, there is no such thing as an overnight success in this. When you see things happen, it's taken a long time and a lot of effort and a lot of money to get to that point. The CSX Select site, this has been going on since 1997 in Edgecombe County, and Bob, you know that we may be going on 10 years working to get the Middlesex Corporate Center to the point where it is. So a lot of effort goes into these things. But expanding our site and our product is a key thing. The other thing that communities are going to be turning more to, which the Chamber has certainly done a great job in working on the talent recruitment pieces that we have to make our area. We have a lot of things, but we don't want to hide our light under a basket. Now we've got some great opportunities and good ways to do that thanks to the videos that were done with the Chamber. And I want to talk about a second about some long-term opportunities that I see us happening and something we need to think about. Port improvements. I just took this off. People don't think about this, but in 2014, the Panama Canal is going to be having a new widening. And unlike the West Coast, few East Coast ports are deep enough to fit the larger ships known as post-Panamax. Only Norfolk, Virginia appears completely ready, and we're 125 miles away. So this puts us in a really, really good position. Also want to mention that there is the possibility of a future, well, there is right now designated a future I-44 corridor. This was done by the U.S. Congress a couple of years ago. It's to go from Raleigh through to the Port of Norfolk. We want to see that modified a little bit to show that that interstate corridor goes from Raleigh through Rocky Mount to the Norfolk port. And Raleigh is supporting us in this. We've adopted legislation. So think about this, folks. An Interstate 95, a possible Interstate 44 going east-west. This puts us in a tremendous place. We all need to stay tuned to that. Improvements to I-95. The partnership has come out as opposed to the 95 tolling plan is currently done, but we certainly need to have that improved. Sites and incentives, economic development and recruiting isn't cheap. We need to find ways to finance costly site development. We've heard everybody's stressed, but you know, the demands are still there. We just got to find a way to do it. Secondly, the other piece of this is incentives. They're really kind of a necessary evil, and they're not going to go away, and we just need to figure out how we can finance these to stay in the game. Education and training, we're going to hear about that, but cannot overemphasize a well-trained workforce. That really is the key to getting good jobs, is having the prepared workforce. That's what site selectors are looking for. And then lastly, the whole idea of talent recruitment. We're going to be looking more and more with, maybe working with other communities to see how can we recruit the best talent in the world to fuel our world-class workforce. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today.
As I think about the opportunity to talk about the state of the community, I'm reminded, as I look out at the audience, that we are the community. And I want you to say that. We are the community. No. Yeah, there you go. Say it again. We are the community. And so I'm speaking to you today, really wearing two hats. I'm going to talk to you very briefly about my day job with Cummins, and I want to tell you that the business, from a business perspective, business is stable. There's lots of uncertainty in the world, and we're paying attention and are concerned with what's going on in Europe. We are, even in Rocky Mount, impacted by what's going on in the slowing down in Asia. But our position in the marketplace really places us in a strong place. If you look at Cummins' earnings announcements for the first quarter, we're still on record pace because of our business model in a changing world, leveraging on the emerging economies, the global infrastructure improvements, and the overall emphasis on climate change. We're powering things that are building roads and empowering things that run on the roads. And so our business model positions us in a great place around the company and around the world. As a business citizen, I want to remind you that the Rocky Mount engine plant is strategic for Cummins. It's been a great relationship that we've shared with the community. What we do at the Rocky Mount engine plant is complex. There are very few other people in the world that do what we do in terms of engine manufacturing. Many don't know that we make big engines, and we make 700 of them a day. And those are shipped around the world. We also house a technical development center. We have more than 100 engineers and technicians that are doing engine development and research on leading-edge emissions technology. And so our location is valuable for the company. Our position in Rocky Mount has been a great one, and this location is strategic for our company. So now I want to shift gears and talk to you about some exciting work between educators, community stakeholders, and business called STEP, or Strategic Twin County Educational Partnership. In a reflection of partnership, I will be joined in just a moment by John Farley, who is the new superintendent of the Edgecombe County School System, and Dr. Anthony Jackson, superintendent of the Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools. Together, we want to tell you how we started, where we are in terms of an update, why this is important work, and where we can go together. The idea for STEP really grew out of a number of converging influences. There were several community needs assessments that have been conducted evaluating economic prosperity and quality of life, and they highlighted the need for educational improvement. From a business perspective, many of us in the industrial or large manufacturing or the business sector are anticipating significant turnover in the workforce in the next 4 to 7 years. We've been here long enough and people have been employed long enough that we're starting to see retirement. So an influx of new people comes at a time when the work we are doing is becoming increasingly more complex. Large employers recruiting professional people with families face challenges in attracting people to the community because of concerns about education and safety. Most choose to live outside of Rocky Mount. Most professional hires in the last 18 months that we've hired have chosen to live outside of Rocky Mount. That's not being critical, it's just being honest and stating the facts. And so I want to tell you as a citizen of the community, I don't like that. I don't like it that our professional people choose to live 60 miles away and drive up and down 64 and I-95. And so we can either look at the facts and say, ain't it bad? Or we can say, what can we do? And what should we do? And it's to the latter that I want to keep this conversation moving. The Educational Summit, which was hosted by the Rocky Mount Chamber of Commerce, in which the ideas of a strategic plan were framed as a way toward community alignment. It began to set the seed or sow the seed for the idea of we can do something together and we have to have strategy and a strategic plan in order to move together. There were also listening sessions with both educators and community stakeholders which highlighted the need for collaboration, that in the face of adverse challenges and scarce resources, we can do more together than any of us can do on our own. The listening sessions turned into discussion and working conversations that included a group of community, business, and educational stakeholders from both counties getting on a bus together and visiting alternative education sites in both counties together. A joint public meeting with both school boards, possibly the first in history, to discuss and agree on principles of partnership, not politics, organization, or positioning, just agreeing on the need and the principles that guide collaboration. Both school boards passing resolutions to support collaboration to improve educational outcomes. Meetings with community stakeholders and agreements to hire a professional consultant to help us have led us to where we are now. We have formed STEP, the Strategic Twin County Educational Partnership, as a 501(c) nonprofit corporation to facilitate the collaboration between the two school systems, the community, and business. Why another organization? This organization will be focused on collaboration and facilitating the collaboration. We're intended and by design a sunset organization. We have a limited lifespan to only exist for 4 to 6 years until the learning of collaboration and the cooperative effort is integrated into the normal process. It's not intended to compete with other organizations, but empower the organizations to do what they have been designed to do. How will it be funded? Cummins has already committed around $100,000 to get the organization started, and we are applying for a grant to fund all the strategic planning work. We're also applying for a grant from the Cummins Foundation and other foundations to fund the implementation activities that move forward. How will it be governed and how will it function? The organization will be led by an 11-member board comprised of educators from both communities, community stakeholders, and funders. It will have an executive director, and it will be informed and advised by community action groups of 30 people representing, approximately 30 people representing educators, community leaders, the faith community, families from both counties, and from diverse perspectives. That's a perspective of where we've been and how did we get here. And now I'd like to invite John Farley, the superintendent of the Edgecombe County School Systems, followed by Dr. Anthony Jackson, to talk about the importance of collaboration for this time and for this place.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure and a great opportunity for me to become, July 1, the new superintendent in Edgecombe County. I've been transitioning for about 3 weeks now and working with Dr. Burns and several members of the steering committee who've been very kind in reaching out to me. I want to thank Ken, the leadership at Cummins, Tony, looking forward to working with him, Ginny, Ruben, and all the stakeholders who are involved and will be involved in this initiative. It's clear that the Edgecombe County Board are committed partners, as I will be also. And this is a time of change, and I think this is coming along. Perfect storms coming together with new leadership, with a new curriculum, with the Common Core and Essential Standards coming through next year. We're in Edgecombe County, a district that's in transformation, so we clearly have a lot of instructional gaps and challenges. We will overcome them. We also are dealing with a budget crisis. As you know, Edgecombe has had a cut with the loss of EduJobs funds and the discretionary cut over $2 million in personnel. So we have to operate with precision. So this is an opportunity, in my opinion, to reshape the instructional program, its goals, vision, and mission. This initiative also falls in line with several recommendations from the Twin Counties Competitive Assessment, including developing strategies to rebrand the Twin County region as a sustainable community, making talent recruitment a core element of the sustainable community economic development rebranding effort, and re-engineering K-20 education so that the system better equips the current and future workforce with the skills they will need to thrive and prosper in the global economy of the 21st century. My vision for this partnership includes building leadership capacity from central office to the principalship to the classroom, leveraging resources and working with our partner county, partnering with higher ed and the business community, strengthening teacher recruitment and retention, an instructional focus on essential research-based teaching strategies, engaging the community stakeholders, improving the quality of instruction, and the real reason that I'm here is to raise student achievement. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you, to working with you, and to making a difference in the lives of the children in Edgecombe County. Thanks so much.
First of all, I want to thank all those who have been very supportive of the work, and I've been extremely pleased to work with the steering committee of STEP. And I was asked to really just talk about making the case for collaboration, and I think just sitting here on the stage this morning listening, that case has been made, not just for education, but I think for our community. I use the analogy often of driving down the road using, I'm new to the area, so there are very few places I can go without having to push the GPS. And it gives you a direction, but as soon as you make a wrong turn and you go a few feet or a few miles or however a short distance, and it's not what's been planned, you hear this loud sound come out of the GPS that says, recalculating. And so I believe that right now in our work, in our community, we're hearing that clarion call, recalculate, recalculate. And so STEP provides us that opportunity to recalculate because, in fact, it allows us to go back to our primary mission, focus on student achievement. I've heard since I arrived that we want better prepared students leaving the school system so that we can prosper as a community and so that we can prosper in business. STEP will allow us to really focus our attention and time on building that capacity that's necessary to do that. It will also allow us to really hone in on our strengths, the strengths of the community and the region, and eliminate some of those silos and move more to a systematic approach to building and recalculating our community's focus. It comes at a time that's extremely timely for us in education, as well I've heard through the presentations in the business sector. We're having to implement new curricula, new assessments, new evaluation systems, and higher expectations for student outcomes. And we have to do that in a more efficient model. And it's critical that we do that, and that we do that in partnership. So ultimately, collaboration makes sense. Collaboration makes us all stronger. The real case for me is STEP is the right thing to do. If you'll go to the next slide. It's the right thing to do for our students, our school system, our community, and our region. Because realistically, if not this, what? If not now, when? If not us, who? The time is now. I've worked in several different communities, and what I can say to you, I've not done any research, but I can tell you anecdotally that I've yet to see a great community without a great school system. And so I know the mantle and the burden that we carry, and we need all of us working together to make sure that we're able to provide our children the best opportunities possible. We are indeed the architects of the future.
As we wrap up, I want to just talk about where we can go together and how do we sustain improvement with just a few thoughts. We're guided from our company by our vision that says the vision of Cummins is making people's lives better by unleashing the power of Cummins. That view has in mind the customers who use our products. It's the business people who invest in us for a return on investment. And it's the individuals who work in our organizations and live in the communities where we do business. And so being responsible citizens as business community stakeholders, it's strategic. It is good business. When the community is successful, we're successful. There was a young lady who was walking in my neighborhood quite a few months ago, and I won't tell you all the story. She had bad circumstances that came to her. And it was late at night. Some of you know my wife. She's become a walking fanatic, and when I got home from work, she said, "Ken, you got to get out and walk." And so I'm out walking late in the evening. It was between 9 and 10. This young lady, I just saw a person walking toward me. She's walking and she's crying, and she's been dumped out of a car. She made her way to Rocky Mount by way of Tennessee, sold all her money to find a guy, and the guy, after a day and a half, kicked her out of the car, and she was left empty-handed. And I put her on our porch and gave her something to drink, and I want to just, sometimes when we see bad news and we read things, I want to say to the community what I said to this young woman. Listen, bad things happen. Bad circumstances happen. But it's not the adversity in life that defines us. It's what we do collectively in the face of adversity. And so I believe Tony Jackson's right. The time is now. Look at all the good stuff that's going on in the community. There's a tidal wave. Yeah, is there bad news? Sure there is. Let's just be honest about it. But good grief, there's bad news. There's adversity going on everywhere. But there's great opportunities, and they're now.
I want to thank everyone for coming today. I want to thank everyone again for your involvement, and I hope everyone has a safe and happy day and week and summer, and we appreciate it. We are now adjourned.